You know what's terrifying? You can lose your marriage months before you realize it's gone. Not through dramatic fights or obvious betrayal, but through quiet, subtle shifts that happen right in front of you while you're too busy living life to notice. By the time you finally see what's happening, you're not catching problems early. You're discovering a corpse. Today I'm revealing 6 hidden signs that most men completely miss until it's far too late. These aren't the obvious red flags everyone talks about. These are the whispers before the storm. The cracks in the foundation that no one sees until the whole structure collapses. And if you're seeing even 3 of these in your marriage right now, you need to understand something crucial. You're not in the early stages of trouble. You're in the final stages of ending. Sign 1. The logistics conversation. Here's the first hidden sign most men miss completely. Your conversations have become purely logistical. You talk about who's picking up the kids, what's for dinner, when the bills are due, whether the car needs maintenance. That's it. When was the last time you had a real conversation about ideas, dreams, feelings, anything that actually matters? You're functioning as business partners managing a household, not as lovers building a life. She updates you on schedules. You update her on finances. You coordinate responsibilities like co-workers, not companions. And here's what makes this so dangerous. It feels normal. It feels like adulting, like being responsible, like what marriages naturally become. But it's not. It's the first sign that emotional intimacy has quietly left the building. Because when people are connected, they talk about more than garbage day. They share thoughts, jokes, observations, dreams. They don't just coordinate, they connect. And if your marriage has reduced itself to calendar management and task delegation, the heart of it is already gone. This happens slowly. You don't notice when meaningful conversations become less frequent. It just gradually becomes all logistics, all the time. And logistics can run on autopilot for years. That's why this sign is so dangerous. You can maintain this pattern indefinitely, while your actual relationship rots underneath. Think about your last 10 conversations with your wife. How many were about schedules, chores, kids, bills? How many were about you two? About your connection? About anything deeper than surface management? If it's all logistics, you're not married anymore. You're just cohabitating administrators of shared responsibilities. Sign 2. The phantom happiness. This one's subtle and cruel. She seems happier when you're not around. Not in an obvious way. She's not celebrating your absence. But there's this undeniable lightness to her when you're not there. Her friends mention how fun she was at that event you didn't attend. You overhear her on the phone sounding animated in a way she never sounds with you. She comes home from time with friends energized, but that energy drains the moment she settles back into life with you. Here's what this means. Your presence has become a burden to her. She's not miserable in general. She's miserable with you specifically. She can laugh, be playful, be light-hearted, just not when you're in the room. You've become the weight she carries, the obligation she fulfills, the thing standing between her and actually enjoying her life. And the worst part, you might not even notice it clearly because she's not walking around depressed. She's functioning fine, even seeming happy sometimes. It's only when you pay attention to when she seems most alive that you realize it's never with you. This reveals something devastating. She's built a life where you're not the center, not the source of joy, not even really included in what makes her happy. You're the person she comes home to out of obligation, not desire. The life she actually wants is the one she lives when you're not there. Sign 3. The solo future planning. Listen carefully to how she talks about the future. She's making plans, big plans, life plans, and she's not asking your input. She's not considering how they affect you. She's not even mentioning them until they're already decided. She's planning her life like you're a tenant who might not renew the lease, not a husband who's supposed to be permanent. She mentions wanting to take a course that would require evening commitments without checking if that works for your schedule. She talks about career changes that would upend everything without asking if you're on board. She's researching moves, considering options, making decisions about her future, and you're finding out about them casually after the fact. This is her not including you because mentally she's already separated. She's planning her life as an individual, not as half of a partnership. And when someone starts making life plans that don't factor in their spouse, it's because they're not planning on having a spouse much longer. Women who see a future with you include you in planning that future. They say, "We should not, I'm going to." They ask, "What do you think about?" not, "I've decided." The shift from we to I in future planning isn't just grammatical. It's a complete psychological separation. She's rehearsing life without you, and she's getting comfortable with how that looks. Sign 4. The convenient memory. Pay attention to this one because it's insidious. She's rewriting your history. She remembers things differently than they actually happened, and always in a way that paints you negatively and her choices more sympathetically. Arguments you resolved months ago suddenly resurface as evidence of your character flaws. Good times you shared get reframed with an undercurrent of "I was settling even then." She's not just misremembering. She's reconstructing the past to justify a future without you. This happens because people need their choices to make sense. If she's planning to leave, even subconsciously, she needs to believe she has good reason. So she starts editing history. That vacation you both loved, now she remembers you complaining the whole time. That problem you solved together, now she remembers doing all the work while you coasted. That rough patch you survived, now that's evidence you were never right for each other. She's building a narrative where leaving you isn't failure or giving up. It's finally correcting a mistake she should have seen from the beginning. And the more she rewrites history, the more justified she feels about ending things. She's not lying intentionally. She genuinely believes this revised version because she needs to believe it to do what she's already decided to do. When your spouse starts selectively remembering only the bad and reframing even the good as secretly bad, they're not being unfair in the moment. They're preparing to leave. They're building the story they'll tell themselves and others about why this marriage ended, and that story is already written. It just hasn't reached the final chapter yet. Sign 5. The indifference to improvement. Here's a sign that looks like good news but isn't. She's stopped complaining. She stopped asking you to change. She stopped trying to fix problems. And you might think, finally she's accepting me. But that's not what's happening. She stopped caring whether you change because she's stopped planning to stick around long enough for it to matter. When someone has investment in a relationship's future, they address problems. They get frustrated when things don't improve because those things affect their life. But when someone has checked out, they stop caring what you do because they won't be there to experience it anyway. Your behavior becomes irrelevant because you're becoming irrelevant. You do something that used to bother her. Silence. You forget something that used to cause a fight. She shrugs. This isn't acceptance or maturity, it's apathy. And apathy is far more dangerous than anger because anger means someone still cares enough to be hurt. Apathy means they're already gone. She stopped trying to improve you because she stopped seeing you as her future. She's conserving energy for the life she's planning without you. And while you're relieved the nagging stopped, what actually stopped was her belief that your marriage has a future worth investing in.